Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk. I am Laughingboy, and I'm back again with Tom Fawkes.
Hello!
Hello! How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna break the fourth wall here. It's actually been like 30 seconds since we stopped recording the last part.
So he's still okay.
Yeah, so I'm still doing as good as I was from the last two parts.
Yeah. And on those last two parts, we discussed Twitch streaming in general, and hopefully that gives everyone a good starting point to kind of figure out how to optimize their setups. Today, we're going to talk about a lot of opinions. We've kind of reached the home stretch of our interview here, and this is our final portion, the present day. And we'll kind of just talk about the Tom Fawkes of today. This is just about your thoughts and feelings about yourself, your channel, and the state of the Let's Play culture that has kind of just bubbled a lot over the last couple of years.
Yes.
So to start, you've just finished your very first Let's Play series. How do you feel?
So you're saying that as like flashback to 2012 when I actually did finish my first LP series, right?
Yep.
Okay. Not that different. It was a 4-part Portal Let's Play. It was actually like me kind of making the conscious decision to stop doing machinimas and start doing like Let's Plays. That way my channel was actually having more content. In hindsight, I wish I'd done it earlier because there were large gaps between when videos would get posted on my channel back then. I posted the first few videos, and I already had an established audience from people watching my machinimas. So it just felt like a sort of a change of form, really.
Okay. So it was just kind of like you're actually able to kind of keep a regular schedule and
yes,
all that.
Yep.
So how do you feel about doing Let's Plays nowadays?
I like there's so much that I kind of wish I could do in terms of it. Like if there was a point where I could just like laser focus on one particular thing, then I would love to do it. But like, in terms of my Let's Plays at the very least, I would love to be able to put in more time to like, research a game and make in addition to making something fully entertaining, I'd like to make something that's sort of like a fully comprehensive video guide on like how to do it as well. Very similar to what Chugga Conroy does.
Right.
But as it stands, I feel like I don't have the time to actually put into it to actually, research that kind of thing. At the moment, I'm doing Let's Plays of Donkey Kong Country, like that entire series. And my way of sort of like doing the research to try to get to like, make it comprehensive as a guide is to just like look up other guides and then follow those as I'm playing. So there's that.
Okay. Well, I mean, and I think in terms of especially those three games, especially Donkey Kong 2 and 3, you're looking at games that have kind of started Rare's collectathon habits. And so I think they're really excellent starting points if you're going to try and do more walkthrough oriented style.
Yeah, something linear, definitely.
Do you think that your thoughts and feelings about creating content have changed since either your popularity has grown or especially now that you're since you've been monetized?
I've been monetized since 2010. At least my channel has. I've been making money from doing YouTube videos since 2009. I mean, I'd say like, evolution in that sense is natural, but it also has to change with how YouTube does their algorithm as well. Like it would not be I wouldn't be able to make a living off of still doing like machinimas nowadays because one, they've kind of fallen off of the, popularity in popularity, and two, I wouldn't be making them as often, so I wouldn't be, hitting the requirements that the YouTube algorithm would want.
Yeah, and I think even so, the machinimas machinimas that you've made of some of the Runaway Guys content was still popular.
Those are straight up animations.
Yeah, I guess I use the word machinima just because that was just kind of the word that was used.
Technically, you're not wrong because it takes place in a game engine, but like, machinima's more like the fact that it's like the entire thing is like done within a game's, engine. So like, Halo machinimas is done completely with Halo, or to a lesser extent, Super Smash Bros. Machinimas being done completely in Super Smash Bros. Like that kind of thing.
Right. Although I think when Red versus Blue's case, they had like a special program going on for them. at some point?
Not initially. As they evolved, they started doing like more. They hired on animators to like sort of like intermix animation into like the actual machinima stuff.
Okay. Getting off of that tangent. Is there a sense of like excitement that's still with you with each new series, or has that suddenly turned into like a feeling of anxiety?
Like I always look forward to to playing a new game for a Let's Play, but like you never know how it's gonna do, and you don't know how much people are gonna like it, and like I could just like fold completely and just start playing, stuff that is popular already, and like because at this point I'd say the algorithm's probably dominated by Fortnite videos, like because of how popular that game is.
Or whatever the popular game is by the time the episode airs.
Yeah. At this point anyway.
Right.
But like, I'm always going to be playing like, games that I like, games that I want to share with other people, and games that I think other people should play. So that makes me, it's a mix of both. It makes me excited to play the game and to like share it with people, but it also makes me anxious to see like how it fits into the algorithm, how it fits into how people are viewing it, how it fits into how people like it, and of course how many views and what I'm making off it as well.
No, that makes perfect sense. So what does your family actually think about your Let's Playing career?
They were not on board at first, but after they saw that I'm making a living off of it, they're completely for it now.
Okay, that's awesome.
After I graduated college, there was a little bit of uncertainty with my family because I needed to. They felt that I should get a job and stop focusing on the YouTube stuff. But I think what really made it real for them was at one point like I think it's I'm not gonna say it's rude for them to ask this because they're my parents after all, but they asked like how much I made from in total for like a month, and they were delightfully surprised at how much. I'm obviously not going to say it here. And so like they sort of started like backing it, asking me questions about how I can expand more and all this stuff.
Okay. No, that's awesome. I mean, it is kind of a difficult thing because it's a brand new industry. It's
I don't know if we can say that anymore. It's new-ish, but it's not really that new anymore. I think part of the reason why I was able to grow as much as I did was because I caught it early on.
Yeah, I mean, 2000, I would say probably like the earliest onset of like content creation becoming a huge deal is definitely like about 10 years ago.
Yeah. No, I'd say like that was probably the Wild West of it, but really like the emergence of it was probably around like 2006, 2007 with people like I always get this wrong, but who was the guy who created like the first Let's Play?
I can only think of Slow Beef.
I think it's Slow Beef as well, but I always get him and Brutal Moose mixed up.
Okay.
Because I don't watch a lot of their content.
I was not paying attention to Let's Plays back then.
History. Slow Beef. Yep, it was Slow Beef.
Yeah. The Retsu Prey guys.
Yep. Weren't always like that, but they became the Retsu Prey guys.
That is what they became. I mean, even if it's not the newest anymore, I mean, it's still.
Oh yeah, it's still definitely popular. I think it's just a much harder industry to get into now, just because of how many people are doing it, how many popular people there are doing it, and it's really hard to kind of distinguish yourself from the rest without like, doing things that are either unsustainable or outright illegal.
Well, and yeah, I mean, there's that. But I mean, thinking about it from another way is that it's still kind of volatile because it's kind of based off of trends. So you're just kind of waiting for that moment where Let's Plays are just suddenly completely out of favor and replaced by something else. Like,
you got to catch that lightning in a bottle.
Exactly. And then, where do you go from there? But I think I actually have questions about that further down.
Yeah.
But in terms of Let's Playing, what do you think is probably the most important aspect to you about Let's Playing? For example, commentary, video quality, audio quality.
I'd say no one aspect is any more important than another. I'd say like you should try to go for like the best that you can that people are able to watch. Like, so I wouldn't be putting out like 4K 60 FPS videos all the time, because first off, it's you kind of have to keep the balance of quality versus how much time you can put into it. And I think I think being able to maintain that balance is probably that's probably the most important aspect, being able to balance that balance, like how much quality you can put into it versus how much time you can put into it. Being able to balance that is probably the most important aspect of it.
Yeah, tell me about it. I mean, trying to do something to the best of your ability, and also trying to make sure that you can release something like in general, is a really tough balancing act, and especially when it comes to like a mental wellness situation in terms of content creation, because there's a lot of anxiety about expectations. There's a lot of anxiety that you put on yourself to do the best that you can, because you believe your fans are expecting have expectations when they might not. You're
considered self-employed at that point, so it's like the only person you're really depending on is yourself.
Exactly. Now, moving on to a completely different question. Have you ever had somebody tell you that you are an inspiration to them?
Yes, that is it's a very good feeling, but it's also, I don't want to say troubling, but like it's one of those feelings where it's like, Jesus, you're looking up to me?
I mean, it's a weird feeling, right?
It's I'm what's wrong with youth today.
You have no one else to blame but yourself.
Yeah. I do hope that like if it's like an inspiration to start like YouTube and Let's Playing and whatnot, I hope that at least give it a shot. But if it's at the point where it's like, it doesn't seem to be going anywhere, then like, no one to fold and like no one to try something else, or like use the abilities you learned by doing YouTube to try to get into another career path.
Yeah.
Like, you've learned like, video editing, maybe you've started like, amateur voice acting, or like you made a skit, so you've got some script writing under your belt, and like take what you learned there and like, I wouldn't say try to apply it to getting like a job in that industry immediately, but take what you learned there and try to evolve that, like, get more of an education in that field, and then try to make it work out like in other ways.
Yeah, it just sounds like if you kind of realize that through the process of creating Let's Plays, maybe that doesn't specifically work out, but then you kind of realize to yourself, like, I'm really good at doing this one aspect, like you said, either video editing or script writing or anything of that nature, to take that and apply it somewhere else, and to kind of see where you can go with that, because that might be something you're extremely good at.
Yep.
So a hypothetical question. Somebody asks you to view their channel/stream to give them tips on how to improve. If somebody were to ask you that, and you went ahead and looked at their channel and stream, is there anything that you would try to pay attention to the most in terms of what makes that person's content good or bad? Is there anything that you look or listen for?
I guess primarily just like there's it's sort of like a standard in video, in like audio and video quality. So if they're not meeting that, then that would like stick out like a sore thumb. But like in terms of like what I'm trying to pay attention to, like, is the person, I'm assuming we're talking like in a Let's Play sense.
Yes.
If the person is entertaining, if the person is like putting the energy in to try to like to be entertaining and do that, then I give them a thumbs up. But like if they're just like playing through the game and occasionally going like, oh no, I died. Okay, I guess we'll start back at the beginning. And then just like silence for like 10 minutes until they either die or beat the level, then I'd say they probably need a little bit of improvement on the more vocal aspect of it.
The Let's Play, as we've said, it's not a brand new business of content creation, but definitely the ability to start a Let's Play channel, the resources out there are a lot more plentiful. So because of that, a lot of the amount of Let's Play channels have skyrocketed. Especially like I'd say around 2012 was when it really started getting like super huge, in terms of just the amount of content that you can get. Do you feel like the community has changed a lot? Like the actual LPing community has changed since you started?
Oh yeah. I mean, like, because there's multiple ways you can go about Let's Playing. There's, like the informative type, like the Chugga Conroys out there. There's, the base gameplay type where it's pretty much just like they've got the gameplay, they've got commentary, that's all the editing they need, and there's that. And there's like the clip based one where they'll just show off like the best bits of something and leave it at that. When initially it was more or less just the informative side of it, where people would post Let's Plays to sort of like, honestly, like early Let's Plays were more like game facts than anything like that, because it would just more likely be showing off how to beat a game as opposed to like trying to play through a game and be entertaining with it.
Yeah, and I think even back in the day when it was just when people were just taking screen caps and posting them on message boards, I think a lot of those games were choose your own adventures. And so they would just kind of, if they wanted audience participation, they could post a picture with a choice. And they would ask like the people on the message boards to like, what choice should I make? And then that would just kind of create like a little bit of forum interaction.
Yeah.
So I think there was definitely that, but I think there was a little bit more. It's hard to say that there's more interaction with the people that are participating in the Let's Play, especially since Twitch has like open doors in terms of being able to interact with your fan base.
Yeah.
But it is definitely a different feel. I think it was just more intimate. Do you feel like it's more or less difficult to be considered part of the Let's Playing community?
I think it's easy to call yourself a Let's Player. I think it's difficult to consider yourself part of the community, unless you create your own community. Because like if you're like start a Let's Play channel and your goal is I'm gonna be best friends with the Game Grumps and Markiplier, then you're probably not gonna get too far. But like, if you're like, oh, let's start like a Let's Play collaboration with some friends, then you're already part of a Let's Play community.
That's true too. In terms of, I guess, the Let's Play community at large, you're like the whole encompassing world of it. Do you think that it's a little bit more closed off in terms of finding out information about how they run their channels and create videos? Is there a lot of like, do you think there's a lot of like secrecy behind talking about how videos are made?
Not really. If anything, I'd say it's relatively open. I think the reason people don't like put out a lot of stuff about how they make their videos is just because like they don't feel there's a need to. Just because it's it's such a transformative media. It's transformative, but it's also limited. Like there's a way it's very much streamlined. Like you could definitely make a Let's Play video, with little to no experience, with the most basic standard equipment and with like little editing knowledge. Like you can make a Let's Play video right there and then. I think like the big thing is just learning how to make learning how to make it through trial and error and whatnot. Like no one's going to become king of Let's Plays in a day. Everyone's got to start from somewhere.
Right. And I mean, the whole point of why I started this particular series was to kind of get that information out there. It's a lot easier nowadays to get this information in terms of like capture cards and whatnot. Like Elgato has made an industry of it versus when I was starting to get into Let's Plays and I had to like look for a lot of this information on my own. So I think it's probably a little bit easier for somebody to at least get started in, especially with like minimal editing skills and minimal knowledge about what capture cards work and how they work.
Yeah.
Now, back to sort of the blind LP aspect. Do you think your fans personally prefer that content?
It's a weird mixed bag because it also depends on the game as well. If it's a shorter game, then yes, blind LPs are like really good for it. It's a longer game, then they're going to get frustrated seeing you try to, use the same equipment on something like 50 times over and wondering why it's not working.
Well, I was going to say, do you think the comments are more or less forgiving on blind LPs?
Oh, completely less forgiving. You're going to get experts at the wazoo telling you what you're doing wrong, even though you've never played the game before.
I mean, even
by the way,
putting blind
experts
on
was
the
in
title.
heavy quotations.
Heavy quotations. Present day landscape has changed considerably, especially within the last couple of years, and especially since I started this series. If you can believe it. YouTube has had a lot of issues with changing how search engine optimization works or their policies regarding copyrighted material. And I think a lot of channels, regardless of their size, like you can have a channel that just started yesterday, or you could have literally like the completionist himself complain about YouTube making things way harder for subscribers in order to view their material and to keep up with day-to-day releases. Do you personally believe this to be true?
I think it is, but I don't know. Like, if you're going from the homepage of YouTube to like figure out like what the people you're following are doing, then you're doing it wrong. Because I have my my YouTube page automatically linked to my subscribers page as well. But like I think the whole point of YouTube at this point, because YouTube is actually losing, like YouTube is hemorrhaging money, but it's too big for Google to just pull the plug on it.
Right.
So like their goal is to like have them make money. So whatever is like coming out that's popular, YouTube's gonna back immediately and throw everything else to the wayside. So I think it is going to be harder for people who are subscribed to view material and whatnot.
Well, and I think especially lately, the idea is to click on the bell icon on a person's channel.
I don't understand why that's not like on by default, and people who don't want the notifications could just turn it off. Like that, well, I think that should be the default as opposed to like waiting on, you know, having them click on the bell. I'm saying like when you go to like YouTube's homepage and you're not seeing the people you're subscribed to, that's what I think is the BS part.
Do you think that more and more channels these days are focusing on games that are trending and less on games that creators would be more passionate about?
Little of column A, little of column B on that one. I think that the games that are trending are the ones that people are passionate about. Like I think that if it also depends, it's going to depend from creator to creator as well. Because like if a creator was like, I put out, you know, let's flash back to the glorious year of 2010.
That's a pretty
it's
good
like,
year.
Oh, I was a Let's Player who made Let's Play videos on, you know, Diablo and like, you know, Diablo 2 and, you know, Warcraft 3. And, you know, they did it pretty well. You know, let me post a video on this on this Minecraft thing. Oh, my channel blew up. Well, I'm just gonna, you know, like it's definitely gonna like depend on like, you know, I feel like if you're just chasing the trend and if you're just chasing the views, you're doing it for the wrong reason. Because like the whole point of this thing is to enjoy yourself, and if like you're just playing this just for the views, then you're definitely not gonna be enjoying yourself while doing it.
Yeah, especially in some rare instances where you kind of get pigeonholed into the game that you just kind of fell into.
Yeah.
And do you have any search engine optimization tips that might help smaller channels get noticed? It is kind of
I have no idea how that works.
Well, shit. So I mean, there is
I guess like tags and whatnot. Like if you're making something that's like going to be more for like a guide purpose, have your tags and description have like, you know, names of like levels and whatnot that you're playing, or like names of like specific areas. So that way if they're searching like, you know, oh, how do I get past this point in Midgar? Search Midgar. Oh, there it is.
And I guess especially like the words walkthrough would also help.
Yeah.
It seems that a lot of issues facing content creators on YouTube, a lot of them have started migrating to Twitch in order to kind of increase their revenue or to continue to use Let's Playing as a full-time career. When you kind of include a lot of these subscription costs and donations, I think there's a lot more opportunities for creators to earn more money on Twitch. Would you agree that Twitch might be a more lucrative option at this point than simply YouTube?
Again, it's going to depend, but I feel like on top of that, having an established presence on YouTube is going to help push that Twitch, you know, I don't think it's a word, but lucrativity more.
I mean, it just seems like they kind of live in this weird symbiotic relationship.
Well, the subscription, like offering like free content with like the option for like a subscription based thing and like offering people rewards for that. I think that's a a brilliant model. If people just want the base stuff, they don't have to pay for it. If people want more than that and want to support the creator, then they can. Like YouTube's trying to piggyback off, tried to piggyback off of that as well with I think they call them sponsorships on YouTube. It's pretty insane to see that kind of thing. But honestly, I think it depends because like I feel like if you're I have to say Twitch probably is more lucrative than YouTube.
I think just the idea of constantly getting bits and or donations and with the subscription costs that come to light with it, it just kind of seemed that there's less to deal with in terms of advertising revenue.
Yeah.
Do you see yourself spending more of your hours towards streaming in the future?
That's a good question. I do want to continue doing like Let's Play videos and whatnot on my YouTube channel. And streaming definitely is doing much better than my streaming channel definitely is doing a lot better than my YouTube channel is. So there could be that. I do want to keep it at least having like one video a day on my YouTube. And I do want to keep streaming as much as I do, but man, it's just super time consuming.
Yeah, especially with the post editing and all of that. Are there any sort of pros and cons when it comes to earning money through streaming on Twitch versus posting videos on YouTube?
With Twitch, I'd say it's going to depend on how engaged your audience is with you. More engaged your audience is with you, the more they're going to want to try to help in terms of like, money making stuff and whatnot. So they're going to want to subscribe more. They're going to want to donate more. They're going to want to, they're going to like want to do this sort of thing. With YouTube, there's much bigger disconnect. And I think the biggest problem with that is the onset of people using ad block. So like, because you're making money on YouTube is more focused around ad revenue than anything else really. Unless you're one of those creators that like wants to, tries to go adless and just goes completely from Patreon.
Right. And that in itself is sort of a separate topic. I don't actually think I've covered that, but it is, in terms of the ability to make money on YouTube, there are more, I don't want to say workarounds, but there's definitely some interesting aspects in terms of making money on YouTube versus that sort of more direct, I guess, payment method that you can get when streaming on Twitch.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of issues within YouTube landscape kind of forced some information about multi-channel networks to come to light. Namely, especially when I started this interview a year ago, Disney owned Maker, and they had narrowed their scope of its creators, effectively downsizing almost everybody. They
basically got rid of like the Maker stuff and only kept the Polaris stuff.
They kept the Polaris stuff, and it was pretty much like what I would say, almost say like 2% of what they originally had.
Yep.
Their top earners were still staying around with Polaris, but pretty much everyone under the Maker label had disappeared.
Yeah.
And a lot of major creators themselves have left these multi-channel networks within the last couple of years. And I've even mentioned Game Grumps have left multi-channel networks in order to do their own thing. Yep. And that relationship between creator and multi-channel network is becoming a little bit more strained. Do you think that with all of this, that the future of earning a profit doing Let's Plays might be coming towards a weird breaking point?
I don't think so. Like, unless you had like a certain thing with like a certain agreement with your MCN, like you can still get hit for things like copyright claims and whatnot. So I think it's still like able to be made for profit. Like having an MCN is not the only way to make money off of it. You can go completely independent and just get paid through Google ads. But I think like in some terms for them, if some of them had that agreement with their MCN, then going independent means that they would probably be hit with more copyright claims than not. There are some inherent risks to going to going MCN free, but I don't think there's going to be any. I feel like dependence on MCNs is definitely gonna wane, but you know, I don't think it's going to hit like any sort of like breaking point though.
Do you think this has kind of made Let's Playing, especially in order to, I guess, make a profit? Do you think this makes it a little bit more inaccessible for small channels who want to gain similar success? And especially considering the new monetization model that YouTube has launched within the last couple of months.
I think it's definitely going to be harder for smaller channels. Like, this is the kind of thing that, like, everybody was sort of afraid of going into it, where it's like, you know, back in like the early 2010s, you know, late 2000s, there was the onset of just like creators coming out of the woodwork, and like, you know, MCNs wanted to get in on that, so that way people could get, you know, that way they could basically just take a small chunk of everybody's profit and not really have to do much about it, except about any of them, except for with their bigger stuff, you know, with their bigger people. But like, I don't think like not having an MCN is the end of the world, honestly. I think smaller channels still can gain success, but they have to like hit the right marks and have to get really lucky.
And do you think that a lot of these issues might strengthen the migration of Let's Players to streaming services?
Oh, definitely. I do think, but at the same time, I think they're gonna find that, I think like the smaller, are you talking about like big Let's Players migrating to streaming?
Well, I think, I mean, there's definitely the issue, or not really the issue, but there's definitely the topic of larger Let's Players, I guess top earners, quote unquote, moving to streaming versus YouTube. But I mean, there's also the idea that, you know, why should I, as a person starting out, why should I bother with YouTube if it's that difficult and there's not much incentive, when Twitch streaming might be a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for?
Well,
like immediate.
well, lucrative, but but like, if I'll say the exact same thing I tell everybody who's talking about like going into YouTube or streaming or whatnot. Don't go into it expecting to make money. Go into it as like a fun thing. If you make something of it, then try to roll with it. If you don't, then consider keeping it as a hobby and possibly giving it up if it doesn't work out.
Okay. And so after all this, let's talk about the future of Tom. Looking back at the past and seeing what's going on in the present, how do you feel about certain things moving forward? And we'll start with just kind of where do you, the job interview question, where do you see your channel in the future?
Kind of up in the air. 5 years from now, I'm kind of hoping that it would have grown to the point where I could at least have like have a person on for, you know, to have them edit or something like that. So that way I'd be able to do more. I'd be able to do more in terms of like streaming. I wouldn't have to, you know, have like a hand in absolutely everything I do, and I'd be able to have more time to do other things. I have no idea, like, but I couldn't, there's nothing for in like the foreseeable future of how it's going to be going in 5 or 10 years.
Right. I mean, it's especially with the industry kind of changing and evolving. You really just can't see where things are going to be. And what kind of games do you hope to get through in future series? And obviously, like, we're not going to talk about future Let's Plays if you're not sure they're going to happen. But what other kind of games do you hope to accomplish?
I do want to continue learning how to speedrun Pikmin. I want to have a. I just want to like try to practice it as it goes. Keep going as like fast as possible and try to. You can the thing with Pikmin is that you can beat the game except for the impacts that you can complete every area the first day you get there, but it's ridiculously difficult and very tight on time.
Okay.
So I'm trying to learn that route, and hopefully I can get it. Keeping up with my weekly vlog, which I actually hadn't started when we started doing this interview. Keep on my vlog, keep doing stream highlights, and keep playing games with, you know, just myself and other people.
Okay. And do you think you've accomplished what set yourself out to do when you started the channel?
I didn't really have a goal when I started my channel, honestly. I just wanted to make machinimas for fun, and it turned into this.
Is there anything that you could tell maybe past you from when you started, if there was anything you could tell that version of yourself, what would it be?
Trying to post videos more often and give Let's Playing a shot. Give Let's Playing a shot earlier, I should say. If I'm going back to like the version of me that just started YouTube, then I'm going to try and tell him, convince him to get into Let's Playing sooner than the machinima stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. And finally, so I kind of created this series for a lot of purposes. One of them was to allow pretty much all kinds of fans to learn new things about their favorite YouTube creators, but my main focus was kind of help inform and inspire people who were just starting out or thinking of starting their own Let's Play channels. And I wanted them to have a series or somewhere that they could go to if they had questions about how those that inspired them create their own videos. To cap that off, as a closing thought, is there anything that you would like to say to those of our viewers that are just kind of starting out?
I've mentioned it many times before, but do it for fun. Don't look into doing it for profit.
And is there any advice that you can give to those who might be struggling with getting their own following?
Be active on social media. Anybody who is following you like on Twitch or like whatever, direct them to like whatever social medias you have, because like the more people are following you, like the more it'll get to their followers and eventually it'll like break out. So like be active on social media pretty much.
Well, I think I've pretty much done all I can without going into every minute detail. So I hope I've done an okay job of things, and I'm hoping that this series will kind of help everyone out in the future. Tom, thanks so much for joining us. This is it. This is all the questions I had for you. We've gone through 12 pages of content.
Yeah.
In about a year.
Man alive.
So if that gives any indication to how long these take. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me. It was a pleasure to get the opportunity to talk with you.
Thank you.
And I hope we can work together in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you everyone who's been watching this content, all however many episodes this turned out to be. And I hope you guys learned something from it, and we will see you guys on the next series. Well, I will. Tom won't. Maybe he will. I don't know.
I'll be conducting the interview next time.